Good morning, everyone. It's Wold Diego from San Diego and Tijuana, Mexico. Today is September 30th, 2021, and I'd like to talk to you about survival fishing. Survival fishing is really the story of mankind. I have a degree in anthropology from the University of San Diego, and my philosophy is one of survival of the fittest, like Charles Darwin and his Galapagos Island observations. But my philosophy is also a belief in an all-knowing, all-powerful God. Human beings have survived for thousands of years by basically what we know as fishing. Anthropologists believe that 20 to 40,000 years ago, the first humans crossed over from Asia on the Bering Strait land bridge between Asia, Mongolia, and Alaska. And they worked themselves, migrated south along the Pacific Ocean coast, and living off mainly mussels and crustaceans along the coast. Now we call every food source that comes from the ocean, we call it fishing nowadays. But this is really hunting and gathering. There was no such thing as fishing back in the beginning of human history. It was hunting and gathering. At low tides, they would wander out along the cliffs of the Pacific Ocean and pull the mussels off the rocks and grab the clams and lobsters, any kind of crustaceans out of the sea, and survived off of this steady food source of protein, tremendous protein, which still exists to this day. So in a survival situation, possibly caused by a man-made event, you know what I'm talking about, the target areas along the west coast of North and South America would include Seattle, Vancouver, Seattle to the north, and San Francisco, dropping down to Los Angeles and San Diego. And the next target, I believe, would be the Panama Canal. So my bug out plan, if you will, would be Mexico. Tijuana would possibly be taken out with San Diego. So my survival plan would have to start in Rosarito, Mexico, about 20 miles south of the border. Then you have Popola, La Mission, and all the way down to Ensenada. I believe that's as far as south as we'd have to go in the initial event, as Ensenada is approximately 100 miles south of the border and sits behind the mountains, which would protect it from any fallout. But in a limited, small catastrophe, survival fishing, or the hunting and gathering of mussels and crustaceans, could basically start at the Tijuana beach area, working south along the cliffs down to Rosarito. So So for the first 10 to 20 miles, if you were not in the fallout zone, you could gather crustaceans and mussels along this coast. As a matter of fact, even today there are plenty of what the Mexican call chorros, which are a mussel cocktail mixed with various juices like tomato juice and even alcohol. There could be other mares, they call it siete mares, which is pulpo, octopus, clam, oysters, shrimp. Everybody has their different style of cocktail, but it's basically made with the mussels from the cliffs down below on the ocean. So as you can see, survival fishing is not fishing at all. It's the gathering of these mussels and crustaceans and then making them taste good, basically. But in a survival situation, you wouldn't care that much about the taste as long as you're getting the necessary protein. Shrimp actually comes from the bays, not the ocean, like the Sea of Cortez. And probably the biggest source of shrimp to this whole area is over there starting in Sinaloa on the other side, on the east side of the Sea of Cortez. And it all has to be trucked over here to San Diego, Tijuana area. So shrimp is not native to this side of the ocean. Now lobster is. Lobster, oysters, clams, and the mussels. Okay, now for what we know as fishing. The fishing industry out of Ensenada. Actually, the majority of fish come from nets, from purse seiners, the commercial fishing boats. This is the vast majority of fish in the fish markets as we know it comes from netting. In a survival situation, this may or may not be continuing. And then the use of hook and line, traditional fishing methods with the rod and reel and the hook and the line, we call that sports fishing nowadays. And in a survival situation, it's not that effective. Whereas spearfishing is pretty darn effective, but it's takes a lot of energy, and it's a specialty talent that you'd want to be prepared for or know how to do. I know how to do it, and it's great. It's fun. Nothing better than being underwater and getting a good look at a fish, and when it turns sideways, shoot it with your spear gun. Much more of a sure thing than fishing, where you could be fishing all day long and not even get a bite or any fish at all. So what we're talking here on my videos would be surviving in Mexico during a catastrophic event. And I think what we've seen from the recent COVID outbreak example and the quarantines is that most governments of the world tend to close everything down, even the coast and the ocean and fishing. So during a real survival event, you're probably not going to be able to go to the coast and do any fishing at all. Because especially like down here in Mexico, the military has patrol boats and soldiers armed with machine guns. They're not going to let you go out in the ocean and go do any fishing. They don't even want you on the coast, on the sand, on the beach. During COVID, they kicked us off the beach. So during a real event, your biggest enemy is going to be the authorities and even your own neighbors. The neighbors will call and tell the authorities that there's someone on the beach, is someone fishing. Nope, you're not going to be able to do it. So you better have a plan. And my plan would be to secure my family, and then I would have to start scavenging for food at night, probably along the coast, especially the mussels and the crustaceans and clams and lobsters and stuff, because you wouldn't be able to do much fishing out in the open ocean. It's too visible. Okay, so at nighttime, I'd be, especially at low tide, be in the rocks along the cliffs, gathering what I could. And then I'd have to have a stash place, stash it, so that when it was safe, you and your family could get the food and start using it for personal use or as a barter trading commodity. Now remember, the authorities are your enemy. There may be roving gangs of youth or whoever has the muscle power that are going to try to take your food. So you're going to have a way of avoiding them as well. There won't be any weapons available, no guns available. That's all illegal down here. You may be able to make a deal with other fishermen who may have connections with the military and the police, the authorities, to go out fishing. You know, they've got their ways, probably bribery, giving the authorities their share of the fish. So any scavenging you do, it's going to have to be at night, and you're going to have a way to defend yourself. If you do see gangs of people coming down the beach that are threats, enemies, I would suggest you try to make yourself unavailable. Like, get out in the water, get along the cliffs where they can't get to you. It's better than being on shore, where for sure a gang of people are going to take what you have. So things can get very, very ugly. And hopefully it wouldn't come to a major event, but even in a limited event, at least be prepared for a worst case scenario. I'll talk more about this later. So this is Wold Diego, wishing you a good day, a good life, and I'm over and out.